Hey pumpkins, and happy Halloween to you all. Today I shall be reading you a story straight from my Dreaming of Yesterday book. It's a story set in August about a spooky event that happened to the main character. And with that, here we go. The Green Light. It was a night I will not forget as long as I live. I'd always been a big coward, and this time was no exception. It was a Sunday evening, just as the summer sun was thinking about going to bed. I wasn't too far behind. I was so tired from a day travelling, back from a weekend away, especially in the muggy heat of an August afternoon. I had taken a nice cool pillowcase and selected a cotton sheet from the cupboard. I slid into bed, laid my sweaty face down on the chilled pillow, and that is when it happened. A clap of thunder, so loud that it set off a couple of car alarms in the neighbouring street. Now, being the coward that I am, I bolted upright immediately, eyes wide open in fright, and grabbed hold of my favourite old teddy bear. Fearful that another rumble would strike without the usual warning of lightning, I wrapped the sheet around me, clutched poor Teddy close, and crept towards the window. It was like some kind of black and white horror movie as I peeked through the curtains and a bolt of lightning cut through the sky. I counted slowly and braced myself for the next boom. It was pretty close. I saw the tree in the garden rustling as the breeze gained power and the rain began to pour from the great grey bruised clouds above. I was transfixed for a moment, watching the leaves flailing about, battered by the rain, and I felt sorry for the poor thing, standing there like a lonely green soldier, unable to escape the battle. As I stood there, unsure of what to do now, I certainly couldn't sleep through this, a strange and bemusing thought crossed my mind. Something inside my head seemed to think it would be a good idea to get out my seldom used sketch pad and pencils and draw to take my mind off the storm. I can't tell you why. I'm still not quite sure myself, but unquestioningly I did just that. The temperature began to drop, so I snuggled under my duvet and opened the page. I picked up a green pencil and just drew whatever came into my mind. Swirling shading came at first, and at that time that is all I thought I was doing. Just meaningless shapes of green. The storm rumbled on, getting louder and louder. The green pencil swirled and danced across the page, just as I had started to get hypnotized by the swirls in front of me. I was rudely awakened by the loudest rumble and crash that I had ever heard. For a moment I was convinced that a small plane had crashed outside. With even more nerve than before, I dared, after a few failed attempts, to peek out of the small window of my bedroom. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Smoke. Rain pelted down on the now smouldering tree, putting out the flames that its brother lightning had caused. The tree had split clean in half and was now a charred, leafy mess, doing the splits across the neighbouring garden and my own. Looking back on it now, the smoke did have a vaguely green tinge to it, and I'm not sure I noticed at the time. And as if that was not enough to startle me sufficiently, the next thing that happened was practically unbelievable. So, my dear reader, Please keep an open mind. There was another small strike of lightning, but there was something incredibly odd about it. It was going the wrong way. The spark came from the centre of the decimated tree, at the point that the split began. It rose upwards towards the sky. Almost as suddenly as it began, the storm ceased. The eerie air of silence it left was unsettling in the least. I had a strange feeling that I was the only one to witness this event. I was in a blur. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Should I call the fire brigade or the police or anything? Well, it wasn't on fire anymore, and they probably had more important things to do, especially on a night like this, so I decided to leave it till morning and take it from there. I was tired. I'd been travelling all day, and it was hot. The storm had come and gone, and I was even more tired. I laid down, eyes wide open, and I thought about the lightning, the spark from the tree. Surely I must have imagined it. I felt a strange and sudden urge, a surge of tiredness, and my eyes began to droop and feel dry. Just as sleep was about to take over, a noise awoke me. It was a sort of buzzy hum, like a bee but more musical. There were no insects in the room. I looked about for any sign of a fly or such and shrugged it off and laid back down. The noise came again, but louder, and at the window came a tapping. The buzzing and the tapping were coming from the same place, outside. I tried to ignore it, but it was useless. My confused mind overanalyzed as it always did. So I stood up. I flopped my feet into my furry rabbit-shaped slippers and grabbed my dressing gown from its resting place on the floor and wrapped myself up. I didn't know what protection I thought it would offer me against whatever was outside, but it was a comfort nonetheless. As I neared the window, it rattled as if a train was passing close by. I carried bravely on and lifted my hands up to the glistening glass. As I reached out, my heart beating crazily, a light made me blink. Green light. I stood it all, unsure of what to do as the light swirled around itself, forming patterns against the sparkling backdrop of night sky. The drawing! I suddenly remembered the doodle from earlier. I turned and grabbed it. The image on the paper, which I myself had drawn, matched almost exactly with the life form hovering and pulsing outside my bedroom window. I can't to this day satisfactorily explain what happened next, but it did happen. I'm sure of that much. My hands reached out to the window, and it creaked slowly open, just a fraction, as I suddenly had a feeling of happiness and elation from within. And in my mind I knew the being to be of no harm. Like a shapeshifter, she slid through the crack in the window, and the smell of bracken, peat, and damp grass wafted past me like a memory of a smell made real. She span herself around me, and I knew that it was a she, no doubt in my mind, and she spoke to me. Audibly, all I heard with my ears was the amplified, ethereal humming music. But she did speak to me, straight into my mind, as if I was thinking in an otherworldly voice. She said, "Thank you." Tears rolled down my cheeks, and a smile drew across my face. She thanked me. Apparently, I was the only human that night that had felt sorry for her, you see. The tree had been her prison. It was by mere accident that she had found herself incarcerated and could not escape. Her energy had kept the tree alive, and it in turn had protected her. But what about the poor tree? It had given its life protecting her as best as it could, only to be struck down? No. She said it was not so. The tree used the storm. It reached out to the lightning in the hope of freeing her. No. She said he did not die in vain. No. She said he did not die. She sensed my confusion. "You are tired," she breathed. "You have witnessed something no human has ever seen. You saw the treant after my escape, then the other strike of what you call lightning. You are tired. You must rest. When you awake, visit the point that the lightning rose from. But for now, you must sleep, and sleep well." With that, I had no recollection of what happened next. I found myself wake up in my bed, tucked in nicely like Mummy used to do when I was small, teddy bear and all. All feeling of tiredness had gone. I felt strangely energetic. I remembered the previous night's happenings and hastily climbed into some clothing which had been neatly laid out for me across the back of my chair. As I stepped into my trainers, I slid open the back door and made my way towards the tree. I made my way towards its remains, not knowing quite what to expect. I was quite taken aback. In awe, I bent down to examine what the Dryad had so obviously been referring to when she said he was not dead. The middle of the tree, at the point from which the lightning had risen, grew a small baby tree. It looked strong and healthy, and almost seemed to be waving in the breeze. I smelt the earthly fragrance of the previous night again, and a shiver pricked my skin. Everything was going to be all right now. Everything is going to be all right. And I tell you one thing for certain. I shall never be scared of thunder again. Well, thank you for listening, pumpkins, and I hope you enjoyed my story. As ever, if you click the like button and subscribe, hit that bell, all that kind of thing, it really does mean the world to me. I will see you all later.